Introduction.
Those bills are set down for first reading. The House comes to oral questions, the first in the name of the Right Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, my question is the Prime Minister and asks, does she stand by all her government's policies?
Yes.
The Right Honourable Jacinda Ardern.
Speaker,
Mr Speaker.
does she stand by her statement on behalf of the government that, quote, children are at the heart of everything we do?
Mr Speaker, yes.
Mr Speaker, can she explain then how her government's policy on partnership schools will benefit the children in those schools?
Yes, Mr Speaker, I can explain that. Every child deserves to be in a school where they have registered and qualified teachers, where they have the ability to be taught our fantastic curriculum. What we're keen to do and what the Minister of Education has said is that for those schools, there is a pathway for them to become schools of special character. There are options for them to keep their doors open. We're keen to work with them on finding that path forward.
Mr Speaker, has she seen a statement by a student from one of the schools, quote, "Before attending this school, I barely did anything with my life. I hated school and was never motivated to improve. But thanks to this school, I have a chance on changing my life for the better."
Mr Speaker, I haven't seen that specific quote, but I'm delighted to hear a child with a chance to engage in their education. We want those children, though, to make sure that they are being taught in schools where they have registered and qualified teachers. We are working alongside those schools to make sure that they have a pathway to remain open. We're not asking much from them.
Will the Prime Minister visit at least one partnership school and talk to the students about their experience and their views on whether their school should be closed?
Mr Speaker, one thing I will say is that it's this government's ambition to make every school the best school it can be. And there are a range of schools doing a fantastic job that actually all they've asked for is that for those schools who the government gave special treatment to, that they be treated equally. That means curriculum, that means having qualified teachers, and it means the same level of funding. There is a pathway forward for them, and we're working with them. These children.
So, a question to the Prime Minister. If the Prime Minister's policy is that everyone be treated equally, what does she have to say to those students who believe that by going to one of these schools, they're actually doing a lot better than at the school where they were treated equally?
Look, and they can continue, Mr Speaker, they can continue on in those schools if those schools are willing to teach the curriculum and have. I'd really be interested in what the opposition to having registered and qualified teachers actually is.
So, Mr Speaker, if she believes that, quote, children at the heart of everything we do, why won't she visit a partnership school and ask the children at the school for their views before she proceeds to close their schools?
Mr Speaker, as I've said, we're not focused on closure. We're focused on giving them options to make sure that if they continue to teach the curriculum and have registered and qualified teachers, there is a pathway for them to remain open. And I'd be very interested to hear why the opposition believes that having registered and qualified teachers is such a barrier to good education.
Speaker, why can't the Prime Minister of New Zealand answer a simple question? Will she visit a partnership school and speak to the children about their views about their school? Why can't she answer that question?
A point of order, the Right Honourable Winston, please.
The Leader of the Opposition rose and he started to ask his first question, then he followed up with a second question, and he's perhaps going to move on to a third. That's against standing orders.
Well, I think the Right Honourable gentleman is absolutely correct I've been trying to be a little bit reasonable with people who are taking unaccustomed roles until they get used to it. I will be tightening up in the new year, but I think the Prime Minister's got 2.5 questions that she can pick a bit to answer.
Mr. Speaker, my objection is that the member is implying that we're closing those schools rather than working alongside them, to transition them away from that old failed model into a model that simply asks that they teach a curriculum and that they have registered teachers. And I have to say, it's purely from the student's perspective, that's purely administrative. Purely administrative.
Speaker to the Prime Minister. Will the Prime Minister visit a partnership school and speak to the students to ascertain their views about their school?
Mr. Speaker, again, the implication that I've never in my life met a child who hasn't been to a partnership school is wrong.
Ladies, don't listen. Oh, here we are. A supplementary question, the Right Honourable. Order.
Could I ask the Prime Minister?
Member will resume a seat. While I'm calling a member, I don't expect sort of 3 of the 5 most senior members of the opposition to be yelling as loud as that. They will cease. The Right Honourable Winston.
Has the Prime Minister received any reports suggesting that the Maori students of this country should not be the victims of blind ideology when it comes to privatised education?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I've also seen a line of questioning about it too.
Question number 2, the Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, I beg the member's pardon. I didn't hear Nikki.
Question to the
Kaye.
Prime Minister. Will the Prime Minister guarantee that all partnership schools with contracts will remain open if they meet the 3 criteria that she just mentioned: registered teachers, following the curriculum and comparable funding?
Mr. Speaker, as our Minister for Education has said, that's a process he's going through as we speak.
A supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Can the Prime Minister confirm that there are around 1,000 children attending partnership schools compared to the 760,000 students attending school overall? And does she think the New Zealand children might be doing...
Order. As a result of the interjections, I think there were 5. I will take 2 supplementaries from the opposition. Chris Hipkins, start again, please.
To the Prime Minister, is she aware that there are around 1,000 children attending partnership schools or charter schools compared to around 760,000 children attending school overall? And does she think that those 760,000 children...
Member, sit down. He's asked a question.
Mr. Speaker, yes, and if we'd seen that kind of advocacy from the opposition on the 760,000, maybe we wouldn't have seen debacles like national standards.
Question number 2, the Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. Is he